My name is Christopher Eric Granger-Bell, and this is my Chapter 4 presentation of the right lateral thumb. I greeted the patient upon arrival and verified her full name and date of birth. I asked the patient about the date of her last menstrual cycle, to which she replied that her last menstrual cycle was approximately 2 weeks ago. I instructed the patient to be seated at the right end of the table, and I held my foot on the back of the stool in order to keep her from falling as she was being seated, due to the fact that there are wheels at the bottom of the stool and she could easily slip, fall, and hurt herself. Patient care is not only a priority with the hospital, but is a priority with me, myself, personally. I selected the 10x12 image receptor. I placed the image receptor portrait style on top of the table in order to capture the image in its entirety. The location of the image receptor was on top of the table at the right end of the table. I verified the source to image receptor distance that was precisely 40 inches. I verified this by the viewing screen on the central ray, as well as using the tape measure that's also located on the central ray. The patient was seated at the right end of the table with her right arm flexed at a 90-degree angle. Her entire right arm was positioned on the same plane in order to capture the best image possible. The location of the patient's anatomy was on top of the table, flexed at a 90-degree angle. The entire limb was on the same plane as the specific part in question, which in this case was the right lateral thumb. The location of the central ray was aimed at the joint of the first metacarpal. There was no need for any angulation of the central beam. The collimation of the central ray captured the lateral view of the thumb. I collimated the central beam to surround approximately 1 inch outside the skin of the thumb and included the trapezium as well. The KVP range was 50 KVP. After ensuring that the patient was positioned correctly, I instructed the patient not to move as I took the image from the control panel. The anatomy demonstrated was the patient's right thumb, a lateral view. The images in the profile is the first distal phalanx, the first proximal phalanx, the first ip, the first dip, and the trapezium. The pathology and clinical indicators for the lateral thumb is going to include fractures, dislocations of the distal and proximal phalanx, the distal metacarpal and its associated joints. Pathologic processes such as osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, the distal proximal phalanxes. The sesamoid, as well as the trapezium and the joints associated with the thumb, should all be in plain view.